In the last video, let's talk about more about passing data through the function. So then we will also talk about the return statement. So when we calling the function, all the time when we passing the value, when the argument is passed to the function, actually the value is copied into the parameter. Did you remember earlier I showed you this one? So when we pass in the display value, so 5 here, actually we're using the 5 to assign to the noun value. So usually you will see, oh, here, that's the literal value, right? So of course they are assigned the 5. But one thing is, I also can make this value actually is not the literal value. For example, we see example 3. Example 3, you can see I say I'm passing 5 to display the value. So I can give you then the literal value 5. So then here, actually what they do is they kind of like the noun assign equal to 5. But you will say, right, that's the literal value, right? So that's the direct value. But here, actually, I can using another variable, say count. So this count equal to 10. I define in my main function. So can I pass in the count variable? Yeah, we can. So that's why when we say you passing by value, if that's immediate value, of course, you assign the value. But even this one is not immediate value, they are variable. So we're still using this number assigned to the noun. So that's why the noun equal to the count. But when we say they are equal to the count, they just using the current value for the count value we read. So on the other hand, because here the count equal to 10. So now you see here, it's kind of like count equal to 10. So then 10 I assign to the noun. So now the noun equal to 10. So that's why you see you can run the program. Then they display the value is 10. So this one is we call when we say the passing argument, we copy the value to the variable. No matter they are an immediate value or they are a variable value. So when we say passing by value is an argument is passed to the function, the value for this argument, no matter they are an instant value or a variable, the value being copied into the parameter variable in the function. So when you change this parameter value in the function, they won't really affect the value in the argument. So for example, what does that mean? That means the same thing we see. We go back to see this 10. So this value, I make the count equal to 10, right? So when I display 10, so here they will display 10 because noun equal to 10. So now, can I increment noun here? So after I increment noun, okay, so then here, the same thing. How about we do the cout? Let's do the pre-increment. So that's why you will see the value change. Okay, so now when we do the pre-increment, okay, so noun plus plus. So noun plus plus, so then afterward the noun become what? Right, noun was 10. So then they become 11. Okay, so noun changed to the 11. But how about the count here? Yeah, so right, the count here actually, you change the noun inside your function. But after my function finished, noun is gone. I don't assign the location. When we assign passing the argument, if that's an int variable, we only passing the value. So I give the num equal to the 10 is the initial value. So after the increment, the num equal to 11. But here, after you back into the main, right? So then here, actually count equal to what? Okay, so we can display the count. So then you can see later when we display the count, you will see the count still equal to 10. Okay, so then that's run the program. Okay, so that's why you see the, also here we should say we passing count. We passing count equal to 10 to display the value. Okay, so I passing the count equal to 10 to display value. So then when we display value, right, the value is 10. So then afterward, the non-increment is 11. Also here, because I didn't give them the end of line. So that's why they display in the same line. Okay, so then we can give them the end of line. Then we see here, they won't be so ugly. Now they see they have the increment 11. But now when you back into the main function, your count still equal to 10. They won't be affected because we always passing the value. Here, when they passing is the int value, we passing by copy. We only give them the value. So here, whenever you change the parameter in the local function, they just change that and display. They won't affect the main function. So here, actually, I already changed that in the COMSC9 to show you. Also, or you can see in the example 0, actually, we just also in here, I just show you in the example 3. Okay, so they say we can add a new value in the main. So then in my example, I'm using the count. So then when you display the count, actually we're using the count to assign the value, but they won't change from here. Okay. So if you want to know more information, actually we do have another example here I show you. We're passing by value. You can see here I have a change me function. So this change me function is what? Okay, so this change me function I call my value. So this my value equal to 0. Okay, so then they will display my value equal to 0. But this my value actually is they have the original value is when you call this function, you pass in my value. So that's why we see how the main function will do. So then in the main function, we have a number 12. So this number we display 12. So then when we call change me, right? So change me passing the number 12, right? So when we do the change me here, right? You see change me number. So number actually this 12 only used to assign to the change me function. So this variable, my value, will equal to the number. So let me add here. Okay, so actually from here they just do. So when you invoke the function, you pass in the number equal to 12 to my value. So my value actually before line 34, my value actually is 12. But here in my local function, I update my value equal to 0. So then you will see my value will display 0. Okay, but number still is 12. So when you come back to the main again, number don't change. Because you see your variable defined in main function, even you passing to the local function, they only passing by the value. They won't be updated in the main function value. So your number is still the same. Okay. So make sure you will the same thing, download example 0 to make sure you are fine what we are doing. Then continue, let's introduce the return statement. We will using return statement a lot next week, but we just start talking about the return statement. So of course, return statement actually you already see in our main function. Remember in our main, because that's int, so we return 0. So sometimes return, we can return the value according to your function data type. But sometimes you see here, the return statement actually is, they can use to end the execution of a function. So whenever you say return, actually just mean you return back where you call the function. So sometimes you can return with a value, but sometimes you can replace. Return just pump back to the calling function. You don't need to return the value. So when you have return, actually return can place anywhere you want in the function, just according to your need. But you need to be careful. If you place a return statement, your function just, no matter what, they finish. They don't care they have other statement follow or not. So when you replace a return in the function, all the statement followed by the return statement will not be executed because they already been returned from the function. So that's why sometimes when we're using a return, actually is to use to prevent some abnormal termination of the program. For example, we know, okay, this one something wrong, I need to come back. or I already know the result. We don't need to process the rest of that. So usually in the void function, you didn't see a return statement because when they end to the function end, they just finish. And also because void function, you don't expect to return any value. However, if you want, you still can have a return statement in the void function. Okay, we just don't really see the return statement in the void function, but a void function can have return statement if you need. So the next one we see an example we call the divide. So this divide, you can see there still is the void function. So this divide will just have the first number divided by the second number. So that's what we call that quotient, right? Okay, but did you remember in math we say if you have one number divided by the other number, the second number cannot be 0. Right, so that's what we see here. This function actually we do is we want to user give us two numbers. Arc1, arc2, they can be both. They are both are double. But before we really divide, give them the value to see out the result, we will check if the second number equal to 0. You see, sorry, I cannot divide by 0. So then, since I cannot divide by 0, should I come here to execute line 33? No, I shouldn't, right? So right. So this one is the one example we're using for return. Return is sometimes you reach a point. So this point make your function really cannot or really don't need to continue. We just simply have the return. So that's why if the second number is 0, I just say, sorry, I cannot divide by 0. So then I return. So then when I return, I just come back to where the calling function. So then the statement afterward, they will just ignore it. So then we see here, so that's our divide function. We have the function implementation. We have function prototype. So then in our main function, we ask the user to enter two numbers. So then we see in num1, num2. So we pass in the value. We see what happened. So since this one need the user input, so that's we go to example 6. So that's why here we have example 6, right? So we ask the user to enter two numbers. So we call the divide function. So the first beginning, right, we just do the regular one first. Okay. So regular one, we just have the user enter. So then that's do two numbers with the using 5 and 15. So we see 5 divided by 15 is 0.33. So they display the value. So now you see here, if I enter the first number is still 5, the second number is 0. So then you will see when you pass in the 0 to the arc2, arc equal to 0, so then they should display sorry. Okay, so you see they display sorry, I cannot divide by 0. And they right away return from the function. So that's why they're coming back. So that's why here this line won't be displayed. So that's the example about the return. Even the void function, we don't really need any value return at the end. But can you still using the return keyword? You can. But if you use the return keyword, your function just right away being returned back to the next line you calling the function. The rest of the statement, they just all skip. So that's the return keyword. So we show you the return statement. So then next week, actually we have a lot of things to talk about function. So the next week we will really talk about, so when we have the function, remember we can have the different return type. So then when we have different return type, right, so then we do need to use the return to return the value back. So then next week we will continue to talk about more about the return statement. So then we are not only return back from the function, we will return with a value. And this week we only work on the void function. So that's why on Wednesday we will work on your assignment 8. So this assignment 8 actually is we will write a void function. So this void function we will convert from the Fahrenheit degree to the Celsius degree. So then we'll work on that on Wednesday.